filled out this little piece of paper that just basically said, like, you know, what's your skill sets, sort of, you know, what's your experience, tell us a little bit about yourself. And you know, I was filling it out. I didn't really take it that seriously, because I was thinking, why, you know, I'm so young, and you know, they're not going to want to employ me. But anyway, you know, there was a question on there, and it said expected salary. And I just put enough to stay alive with a smiley face, because like I didn't know what salary was. Like I didn't care about like money. I just knew that I wanted to, you know, I did want to get into the industry, and I hadn't considered anything that, you know, related to like money and wages and that sort of thing. So I just put enough to stay alive, because that's all I thought I would need. You know, because I can get a bit of food and water and somewhere to sleep, I would be absolutely over the moon. And so I spoke to a guy there called Darren Debicki, who's at Aardman Animations, like art director, creative director guy. Showed him my work, just a little show reel that I haven't got at all now. It's somewhere, and I'm glad I haven't watched it recently, because it's so cringy and terrible. So I showed him my work and just had a little chat for like 10 minutes. He was like, okay, yeah, cool, like very brief, very like over quickly sort of thing. And then off I went and carried on with FMX, you know, talking about watching like talks on Avatar and all sorts of like Marvel stuff, which was incredible. So anyway, fast forward for like a few weeks, and I'm sitting at my mum's house. I was in my mum's house with my friends. It was a Monday, and I literally said, I wonder what I'm going to do. I wonder how, you know, what I'm going to do for a job. It was getting close to graduation at university. And literally, from what I remember, I finished that sentence and then had a phone call, answered the phone, and it was a guy called Ben Locke. And so I thought it was a prank call. He was saying, hi, Jamie, you know, I'm so-and-so, so-and-so. What are you up to at the moment? I was like, just watching Jeremy Kyle. Jeremy Kyle was on the TV, like, but what he meant was, what are you doing in terms of like, you know, he started laughing, and, you know, I thought, is this real? Who is this guy, sort of thing? We carried on chatting, and then to cut a long story short, he essentially said, do you want to come and work on a feature film down in Bristol? And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. I definitely really, yes, I do want to come and work on a film. And he told me what the project was. It was Pirates, an Adventure with Scientists. And so I came off the phone and I walked back downstairs, because I'd like was pacing around the whole house and sort of, you know, very excited. Come off the phone, and I remember saying, guys, I think I've got a job at Aardman. Just like that. And there was like, oh my gosh. And then we got really drunk that night and celebrated.
Hi, and welcome to the VFX Artist Podcast. On today's episode, I have Jamie Bakewell, founder of Bigtooth Studios. During today's discussion, Jamie and I talk about his journey into the industry, as well as how he ended up starting his Previs and postvis studios in the Midlands. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the show. So yeah, on today's episode, we have Jamie Bakewell, who's a founder of Bigtooth Studios. So yeah, welcome to the show, Jamie.
Thanks, Kofi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We've been trying to get you on the show for some time. So yeah, let's jump in. Just can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do at Bigtooth Studios?
Yeah, so I'm Jamie Bakewell, and I'm the owner of a 3D Previs studio based in the West Midlands called Bigtooth Studios. So yeah, for those who don't know what Previs is, we essentially take 2D storyboards and we create like a 3D prototype of storyboards. So like directors, producers can sort of really plan ahead of shoots, whether it's a feature film or a short film or a specific sequence. You know, it's very much a pre-production part of the process. Although with technology these days and LED walls and post and pre, there's blurring lines now, but I'm sure we'll get into that later.
So what's the story behind the name? How did you
So I'm a big fan of sharks, and when I'm sort of, you know, thinking of a name, or it's usually loosely revolved around sharks. So for example, my first ever Xbox gamer tag was Shark Face,
Yeah.
so and so. When
Yeah.
I was doing sort of hobby, drawing, artwork and commissions, it was called
Hmm.
Toon Shark.
Hmm.
I've got sharks like
Oh
this.
yeah.
I mean,
Nice. Yeah.
I've got all sorts of shark related stuff, and
Yeah.
so I didn't want to call the company like Shark Viz or
Yeah.
something. It was very cheesy. So the word shark got swapped out, and
Yeah.
megalodon is the
Mm.
prehistoric massive shark that everybody should know of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that was Megalodon was known as Bigtooth. That's what they called it. So
Okay.
Bigtooth just sounded better, and it's shark
Yeah.
related. And so
Yeah.
there we go. Bigtooth Studios was
Yeah.
born.
Nice. Yeah. Interesting.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, just before I ask you more about Bigtooth Studios, I just think it'd be great to just learn a bit more about your journey that led into this moment of being an owner of animation and Previs
Okay.
and VFX studios. So yeah, just
how
tell us.
how much are we going in from the very start, or
Yeah. Just when did it start, and how did you find yourself in the animation and VFX
industry?
industry?
Okay, yeah, sure. So it all started back when I went to university, basically in Staffordshire, and I studied a course called 3D character animation and special effects back in 2006.
Yeah.
And so in the third year, I was always wanted to do 3D, wanted to get into the industry. I remember being a kid and seeing like on the news when like Toy Story came out, there was a few shots of like an artist at a computer with like this 3D character on the screen. I was like, whoa, that is what I want to do, man. And I've always been, creative and drawing and cartoons and all that sort of thing. So, that was where I wanted to go in getting into the industry. I didn't know at that age there was an industry. I just knew I wanted to sort of do 3D and just make cool stuff. And I remember, so went to university, and then in the third year, we went to a place called FMX. So it's like SIGGRAPH. It's like a huge VFX film industry focused sort of conference for 4 days in Stuttgart in Germany. And so not even out of university yet, so I hadn't graduated. It was just like a school trip type thing. So we were all there with our like show reels and like burning them to like CDs and having like a stack of verbatim CDRs and like excited to just go there and like meet people and just learn about the industry and all that sort of stuff. And it was 4 days, and on every day they'd have like industry companies that you could go and talk to, like recruitment stalls looking for sort of new talent and up and coming artists and things like that. So there was a load of us. We turned up, and my friend was like super eager. He's like, Jamie, like, have you spoke to so and so yet? Like Axis, I remember Axis was there, like Frame Store, like DNEG, Aardman Animations were there. All quite overwhelming, thinking, no, I haven't spoke to anybody yet. Like, why would they want to sort of, be interested in me? But every day he would go, Jamie, have you spoke to Aardman yet? Have you spoke to Aardman yet? I was like, no. And I was quite reluctant to, because I had no like confidence, and it was just all a bit sort of, like I say, overwhelming. But on the fourth day, on the final day, his name was Peter Salter. He now works, I think, like Weta or something crazy now, this guy. Amazingly talented student. And he said, have you, go and speak to so-and-so over there? And I was like, no. So in the end, I went over and I went to Aardman Animations and I spoke to them, and I says, have you got any time slots? Because you had to like book a slot. And so she said, yeah, we've got a slot here for like 4:30 in the afternoon. It was like on a Friday, I think. And then I was like, okay, yeah, and I'll come back for 10 minutes and we'll have a chat and that sort of thing. So I went back with my CDR, and I'd filled out this little piece of paper that just basically said, like, what's your skill sets, sort of, what's your experience, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I was filling it out. I didn't really take it that seriously, because I was thinking, why, I'm so young and, they're not going to want to employ me. But anyway, there was a question on there and it said expected salary. And I just put enough to stay alive with a smiley face because, like, I didn't know what salary was. Like, I didn't care about like money. I just knew that I wanted to, I did want to get into the industry, and I hadn't considered anything, related to like money and wages and that sort of thing. So I just put enough to stay alive because that's all I thought I would need. It was like, because I can get a bit of food and water and somewhere to sleep, I would be absolutely over the moon. And so I spoke to a guy there called Darren Dubicki, who's at Aardman Animations, like art director, creative director guy. Showed him my work, just a little show reel that I haven't got at all now. It's somewhere, and I'm glad I haven't watched it recently because it's so cringy and terrible. So I showed him my work and just had a little chat for like 10 minutes. He was like, okay, yeah, cool. Like very brief, very like over quickly sort of thing. And then off I went and carried on with FMX, talking about watching like talks on Avatar and all sorts of like Marvel stuff, which was incredible. So anyway, fast forward for like a few weeks and I'm sitting at my mum's house. I was in my mum's house with my friends. It was a Monday. And I literally said, I wonder what I'm going to do. I wonder how, what I'm going to do for a job. It was getting close to graduation at university. And literally, from what I remember, I finished that sentence and then had a phone call, answered the phone, and it was a guy called Ben Locke. And so I thought it was a prank call. He was saying, hi, Jamie, I'm so-and-so, so-and-so. What are you up to at the moment? I was like, just watching Jeremy Kyle. Jeremy Kyle was on the TV. But what he meant was, what are you doing in terms of like, he started laughing and, I thought, is this real? Who is this guy sort of thing? We carried on chatting, and then to cut a long story short, he essentially said, do you want to come and work on a feature film down in Bristol? And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. I definitely really, yes, I do want to come and work on a film. And he told me what the project was. It was Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists. And so I came off the phone and I walked back downstairs because I'd was pacing around the whole house and sort of, very excited. Come off the phone and I remember saying, guys, I think I've got a job at Aardman. Just like that. And there was like, oh my gosh. And then we got really drunk that night and celebrated. And man. So not the typical way of getting into the industry. There's so many different ways, but for me, that happened and it was all a bit of a dream and I had to like pinch myself. So moving forward a little bit from that. So a couple of weeks later, I graduated from university, moved to Bristol on the Saturday into like a house share with people close to the studio. And then I started work on the Monday for Aardman down there, which was all a bit of a whirlwind and crazy. And, I was sort of taken around. I met Ben, who called me up, and he sort of showed me around all the different departments. And he was saying, obviously my skill set was 3D. I did like 3D animation and that sort of stuff. But I think he was just sort of testing where I best fit because I came on board. My title was a trainee VFX artist. That was on like the first card that I ever received. And so, I went into like the model making area for like a day and was sort of doing 3D scanning and learning about this. And, I went to another department. I was put into the Previs department. And so there was a team of 4 Previs artists in this little room next to the canteen, which we could smell chocolate brownies every day, which were incredible. So went into that room, and then I think that's where I just really fit best. My background's 3D, and at that age and that experience, I had no clue compared to what these guys were sort of, what I went on to learn. But being taken on by that Previs team, I just learned everything there was to know about Previs and filmmaking and like, cameras, everything was just, And then from there, I stayed there for like 3 months. The contract for Aardman was 3 months initially, but my minimum house let was like 6 months. So I was thinking, I can't mess up here because I'm gonna have to continue to pay for a house if I mess this up, But I ended up staying there for like 3 years on Pirates. And yeah, when I spoke to Ben one night, we went out to the pub, and I asked him like, why me? Out of all these like artists and thousands of people at this FMX festival, like what stood out for me? Because they would receive a pile of applicants, and then he just said what really stood out was the line that you put about the salary. Like it made him laugh, so it's just sort of he found that quite amusing, and he really liked that I came from like England and travelled to the festival, being like 19 at the time. And so like he hadn't even seen my show reel, Kofi. Right. He was just literally going off like applicants. Like it was Darren Debicki that saw my work. And he sort of took and Ben took a risk with me because I think they were just looking to put together a Previs team for like 6 months just to help out with production. But, I felt like we came on a bit too early. It was all a learning process for them. And we ended up being there for 2.5 years. Yeah. So that's a whistle stop tour of how I literally started into the industry,
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely not the typical way of doing it, but I'm not going to say no.
Yeah, of course. No. Yeah, it's interesting just because I remember going to similar events where we had to showcase our showreels and speak to talent managers and recruiters. And I think at the time I felt really confident.
Did you?
I felt like I was the best out of that you could possibly meet.
That's good. That's great.
Yeah, but it's very interesting the contrast between you because you felt maybe unready.
Yeah, man. Like I thought, everyone says I'm quite modest, and I don't really like to say, yeah, I can do this. Now it's changed, but when I was that age, it was a lot different. And I'd say to people like, how have I been so lucky to get this job? But they made me realize that like my attitude at university was like I would go to the lectures. I wanted to learn everything. I'd go to the lectures, for like an hour, and then I'd come back and I would just work on 3D and I'd come home because I didn't move to university. I was still living at home. And like pretty much every night I would come home, and the routine was I'd, come home, have some food, go on my computer, and literally in my bedroom work all night till literally 5:30 some nights because my dad would get up for work and I would be going to bed. So I'd be trying to be quiet on my machine, and so people just said you're not lucky, you've put in so much work and dedication to get here. You really deserve it, and it's not just a fluke. This was, it was meant to be. So then I realized, okay, fair enough. I guess I have put the work in, and I do deserve to get into the industry.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because I think, most of the time, I guess people that are good at something they do tend to be very reserved or very humble about it, compared to when I thought I was very confident. My show wasn't all that. When I realized soon after, because it was really basic, but it was just all that excitement that thought, oh, I'm just going to speak to everyone that could meet just to get a job.
That's it, man.
But yeah, it's great that you felt you didn't even realize how good.
It's I'd go to. I remember going to my girlfriend's. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I would go around and I would take my laptop and I'd be really geeking out and want to just look at this. I've learned this, and she was like, "Yeah, that's cool, man. You really want this." So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So moving on.
Moving on.
Yeah, you've got some incredible shows under your belt. I was checking out, and you said Pirates, and then
it went from Pirates in Bristol, and then so we the team that I joined, it was actually a company at the time called Destroy All Monsters, which was a Previs company owned by a really good friend of mine now called Pawl Fulker. So they were brought on board into Aardman to be the Previs team for the Pirates stop motion film. And got really good friends with Pawl. And then he ended up leaving like maybe 6 months towards the end of the project. He'd left. He was there for a good while with us, leading the team. And then the previous teams kind of grew like 1 or 2 people. So there was a team of like, maybe 7 artists. And then Pawl it was his company, still working on it. And he would always say like, Jamie, do you want to come as soon as you finish? Like, do you want to come and work with me? And I was like, yeah, my contract's in Bristol. I can't leave yet. We're finishing this project, and I'll see what I'm doing after this project and stuff. So that project finished, and then I ended up doing a bit of VFX on it, like cut line removals. Like learned because there was 6 months after Previs finished of doing cut line removals and learning like nuke and like stereoscopic comping with cut lines and that sort of stuff, which I hadn't done before, but I learned. And here we go. Actually, we got a little trophy from the Pirates.
Yeah, nice.
So after that, I went to work on Skyfall with Pawl, and that was just for a few weeks down at Pinewood. I remember it being like a cold Pinewood place, staying in a B&B and being there for a few weeks and just traveling away from home, and then it just went from there really. Kofi, I was working with Destroy Monsters on like Skyfall, and then it went to like Fast. I can't remember the order now. Fast. Yeah. And it was just job after job. But there was like Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was my career for the next several years. Working on these projects and Pinewood, Shepperton, Longcross, and all sorts of movies, which was incredible. Dream come true. Like I couldn't believe it couldn't have gone any better. Absolute blessing going from that to those projects. Because you start. I think I've hit it. Look here. Maybe it's just a beginner's luck, and I've started like high up, and maybe from here it's just gonna because everyone's journey is like different, and mine felt like it started up there, and very fortunate to do that. But it just went from like film to film, and some movies, some of my favorite films to work on. It was an absolute blessing. So
did you expect to be far away from home that early? Because I can imagine being like the transition from Aardman and then being on pretty much on set, working on set, and with the
so moving away. Like I just got used to sort of living in a B&B or a house share in Aardman, because it was a bit more long term. Living out of B&Bs and places for Monday to Friday, and then driving back, and then being at home for Saturday, Sunday, and then driving back on either Monday morning or Sunday night, that sort of thing. So that just became routine for me, to be honest, Kofi. So these jobs would be like 6 months, 7 months at a time, and then there'd be like maybe a little gap in between, and then there'd be another job, and and that was it. And then the company, I remember there was a time where I was like, this traveling away from home, it was just getting a bit taking its toll, like on like relationships and family, and just being away all the time after like years of doing it. I just thought, I've got to, what can I do to, something's got to change. Like I can't continue I've got to just make something change here a little. And I remember watching documentary called Life After Pi, which is the behind the scenes of like, the work conditions and the artists that are involved in this sort of thing. And it's just a short documentary. And I remember seeing this guy. He was an older guy, in a B&B, just like following the work around and that sort of thing. And I was like, man, am I going to get to like in my 50s and still be in a B&B, like chasing the work and working out of, studios and that sort of thing, which for many people, that's absolutely fine. But for me at the time, I just thought, okay, there's got to be like a crossroads here, and am I prepared to go down that route, or am I going to just sort of try something? And I was all. Is this where we're going, Coffee? So, do you mind me waffling on, or do you want to interject? Please stop me at any time.
No, it's great. Yeah, it's great.
And so I was always inspired massively by Pawl. So Pawl, he had his own previous company when I first met him, and that was a smaller team, and he was working on 1 or 2 projects at the time, like simultaneously. And I was like, man, like I would love when I went to work after Bristol, like seeing his little team, not just like the team put together for Aardman, after seeing his team and like he's close, like really close sort of, it felt like a bit of a family. It sounds so cheesy to say, but I got there was like Paul, there was his right-hand guy, like Matt Perrin, there was Adam Coughlin, there was Donny Mahmood, there was Gordon, like this really close team of people. And I got in with those guys and it felt really nice. And I thought, you know what? I would love to have my own like company and like have this kind of culture and like environment, because those guys were so close, and and I became really good friends with those guys working on. They seemed to be on all the projects with those guys. Destroy Monsters ended up changing to a company called Proof because it grown, and like another company from America sort of expanded and bought them, and there's like an LA base and a London base. So yeah, I was sort of trying something different, thinking, what can I do? Like, is there any way I can set up a previous company in the West Midlands? And, thinking maybe maybe there's not one there already because there's not enough work. And can you really work on these feature films that I've always dreamt of working on, but outside of London and other places like, Manchester or abroad or America, Vancouver, that sort of thing. So in the back of my mind, I was thinking, it's going to be so difficult. Like, how does that even work? And like the whole business side of things, setting up a business, not just being a creative and an artist, but then setting up a business and having that hat on as well as, so I sort of put it on the back burner for a while, and I was still working at Proof now, it would be called, working on movies, but trying to sort of reduce the time. So rather than being on like a 6-month project, I would say, I'm only available for like a month here, or I can help out here, and just trying to reduce the focus on that, and then try and make something for myself, because if all my focus was always working away for like 6-7 months at a time, the energy, it would be difficult to do my own thing. And so I remember speaking with my girlfriend's dad, and I pitched him the idea, like, I really want to just have my own studio or a company, and like really, after being inspired by Paul and what he's done, he was like, you know what, you can do this. I think what you're doing here, because I was doing like freelance artwork and that sort of thing, and trying to just make money that way and not rely fully on moving to London and doing all that thing. He was like, yes, you're doing like freelance work and something a bit different, which you can be at home for, but I think you're missing like some lower hanging fruit here. You've got this experience, you've got the knowledge, you've got people around you that are going to support you. I think you're missing something. I think you should just go for it. And that made me think, yeah, maybe he's got a point here, but it still didn't. Nothing really started for a while after that, because again, I just got into the like, no, maybe not. Maybe it's not possible. Where do I begin? But then one Christmas went by, and I remember in the January, my girlfriend came down and I designed a logo. I was designing a logo on my laptop, going, this is the studio name, and this is the font, and we can, Bigtooth Studios, and I was thinking about names. I think the night before we were just coming up with all sorts of names, not like Sharkviz and things like that, but yeah. And then the next one she came down, I was designing a logo, and she kind of was like, okay, this is happening now, and let's get a website, and let's call people up, and let's try and find out what's happening in the West Midlands, who's about, because I hadn't really focused on the West Midlands area, and that's probably what was in my head of like, no, there's nothing going on here. But I thought, okay, let's make a list of companies and really like research what's going on and studios that exist, and just focus more attention on it. So we made a list of names and studios. We started calling them up, just saying, hey man, like, I'm Jamie. I've worked in London in the film industry, and I'm going to set up my own Previs company, and this is what Previs is, and just all that spiel, like the benefits and all that sort of stuff. And I remember speaking with a guy called Drew Roper, who we're great friends with now. He had an stop motion animation studio in Birmingham he's still got it, called Yamination Studios. And he was like, oh yeah, man, cool. Like, he used to live in Wolverhampton, which is where I'm based. Sorry, Kofi, I'm based in Wolverhampton. So he had a stop motion company based at the Lighthouse, which is a place just by the train station. It's got its own little cinema. It's a really nice venue. And he'd moved to Birmingham, but he was like, oh, that's cool, man. Like, do you want to come? Why don't you come down tonight? And there's a little film festival on where people are just showing like short films that and animation club. I was like, yeah, sure. So I went to Birmingham, and then, met Drew, met a few other people. And then I really got a sense of like, okay, man, like, this is just one little place with creative people in. There's obviously more than this, but that really started to think, yeah, man, like, if I just start creating a network here, and like let people know who we are. I say we, it was just me at the start with my partner Beck, for that moral support and like designing the website and keeping me pumped, to go for it. And then it's slowly started to, grow, and then, doing a bit of business research, and then still working away for Proof, doing like cover work and like helping out for like a week or 2 weeks here and there, and drastically reducing the amount of time I'm down in London, and then trying to, focus more on business and all sorts of things. And so, I mean, there's so many smaller details in between these. I'm just trying to sort of go through it quickly for this, but
definitely
not quickly, but and so then I remember thinking, I've got no machines, I've got no like contacts, I've got no hardware basically, and I'm trying to start a company, and I didn't have a credit card, and I didn't take a loan out, and there's so many things to consider that I hadn't. You thought, oh yeah, we'll start a studio. We'll, then I thought, okay, I need computers, man. I need like monitors. I need a space. And this was before like remote work. So COVID changed that, obviously. But then it was like, people need to come and work in a studio space. Is it just going to be me? So all these questions of like, how's it going to happen logistically? And then my girlfriend was like, you know what? I think you just need an office. And I was like, an office? That's terrifying. What do you mean? Like, I've got to spend money on an office space, and obviously that's where you've got to start. You've got to do something like that. But it was just always a bit like scary, taking these little decisions, but at the time seemed like huge decisions and walls, But I found a place literally 5 minutes away from a house, called. I spoke to the Black Country Chamber of Commerce just for some advice, and I went to see an office space, and it was just a tiny little room for like health and safety. You couldn't have more than 2 people in there, and I was thinking, I can squeeze another person in here down the line if I need to, but they were like, no, you can only have 2 people in this room. But there was only me in there, and I'd always look over, and so yes, I got that office space, and it was like £100 a month, and I was like, oh my god, that is terrifying. I've got to spend £100 a month on an office space, and I don't know how, getting work in and all that stuff. But fortunately, I was still able to do a bit of cover work down in London and work on films. Like at the time, it was like, Aladdin and just helping out. And so that kept me going in terms financially. And at the time, I was just like, sole trader. There was no limited stuff set up with me. A lot of individuals set up limited companies. For me at the time, I was just like sole trader type thing. And then I moved into this little office space, which was a room within a room. That's how it was. It was one of those type of places, and it was at a place called Spark. So it's a Wolverhampton Science Park, and they were there to sort of help grow small businesses, give them office space and advice and that sort of thing. So I moved in there. Great facilities, great people. And being surrounded by other businesses was quite cool, because it was like, if I'm walking in the corridor or a kitchen, I can ask advice, or, just learning that whole business side. And then doing things like going on business courses and learning about finances and cash flows and all that side of things was alien to me, but that was crucial. So learning about all that, whilst trying to get jobs in and speak to people in the area and like phone up directors and say, hey, we're a Previs studio based in West Midlands called Bigtooth Studios. We do this. And I remember calling up a guy called Carl Timms, and I'll message him on LinkedIn, Carl Timms, and he was a local film director. And I'd seen that he was working on a film at the time called Off Grid. And I was like, if you need any previs, like we can do this, like we can help out. If there's any like sequences or one shot that you really want to sort of visualize, I'll do it for free. Just because I thought, nobody knows who I am, who we are, what we do. I keep saying we, but me at the time and Beck, but nobody knew. So I thought this, I've got to start putting myself out there. So I offered work for free. I did a little bit of previs on this film. So it's just a short independent movie, but it actually featured Alison Steadman and a guy from, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. Guy from Game of Thrones. I can't believe I forgot his name. It's just gone from the top of my head. If I can remember it, I'll come back to it. So it had like a couple of good stars in it. Did a bit of previs. He found it very helpful. Went to the little premiere that they put on like months later, and I thought, well, man, this is just a small, tiny project, but I've put myself out there, and I'm so like vulnerable, and it was terrifying, but there you go. And so that was just working in a small. No, that was at the time, just before that. Sorry, Kofi, I'm all over the place. That was before the office space. I would just work from my home doing it under the perception of being a studio. And so, but when I moved into the office, I'd look over to the other desk behind me. It was always empty, obviously, because it's just me. I had a little vinyl on the wall, printed like Bigtooth Studios, had the logo done. It was all like official and cool. But obviously I had no machine, so I thought I'll call for a favour and I'll ask Paul, who he's the owner of Proof London and good friend of mine. And I says, Paul, have you got any old machines like that are maybe, I don't know, 10 years old that you just literally are not using at all? And I'm literally going to go in the bin. And he said, I'll have a look. And then he got back to me and he says, we've got two machines. They were like some HP, I think they were like HP Z400 workstations, which I think they were like 7 years old. But to me, I was like, I'll take them. This is amazing. Because I didn't take any loans out or anything like this. So, I mean, I could have done, but I thought I just want to see how it goes and see what I can do and that favours. And that was just such a massive thing. And to have two machines from Paul. So thanks, Paul, so much. Took those machines, got them set up, put some new, sprayed the air thing, get all the dust out of the machines and the fans, and reapplied, that grey thermal paste onto the GPU heat sinks, and just because I found that there was overheating, and these were on the way out, but great machines to get started with. And I was like, oh, you know what? I need a NAS drive. I need a QNAP type thing. So if and when a second person sits across from me, needs to access the files, because that was the way I
Yeah.
would be used to working on. Everybody can access the files and that sort of thing. So I need a QNAP, but I didn't really know about local networking solutions and things. So I thought, you know what, I'll ask another favour and I'll see if Paul. I felt so cheeky and terrible, but I asked Paul. I says, have you got, by any chance, a really old QNAP, like a small one that you never use anymore, and you're literally going to throw it away? And he says, I'll have a look. And yeah, JT, the technical guy, and he wears many hats. James Thompson, JT. Such a nice guy. He says, JMO, they call me JMO, sorry. Then the name JMO stuck years ago in Bristol. So JMO. We've got this QNAP drive. It was like a 2-drive empty bay. Obviously, I had to buy my own hard drives, which is absolutely fine because that's not a problem. So I bought some hard drives, fit it in, and then I would look in the studio like, yes, I've got 2 computers and there's just me in here and I've got a QNAP. It's all happening,
Yeah.
But then like I just couldn't. I didn't have any like contacts, even though I've got so many contacts in the industry, and LinkedIn and people that I know. Reaching out and actually saying, just telling them there's been a new studio and I'm trying this, and do you need any help work doing? And just finding the clients was just difficult, to be honest, Goffy, even though I know so many people. And I would go to the studio and I'd like do a bit of business and I'd try and just like do stuff, and it was just hard to, on my own, like every day walking back to the car thinking I've done nothing today. I've done nothing, like nothing's like progressing. And it was tough, man. Like I was speaking to, I even tried to pitch to like another market of like events and like pre-visualizing things and using Unreal Engine and like showing this just to try and get like local. Because at first I wanted to work with West Midlands based directors and artists and things like that. Knowing what I know now, there's so many other things that I could have done and tried out, but at the time, that's just what was happening. I'd go back to the car. It was just tough, and then I'd go back and do a bit of work in London. I'd come back and I'd, let's go, and learning about business all the way. And then after like a year of that, I had a message from a friend of mine who was in the original Previs team at Aardman down in Bristol. Her name's Rebecca Rose. We call her Chiggy. She's a really good friend of mine. She'd messaged me and she says, JMO, how's it going? I've been asked to do a bit of Previs work, but I'm not available because I think she was having a baby, or she was on another project. I think she was working at third floor. I think she was working for the third floor at the time. So she's unavailable. And then she said, I've just, would you want to do it? I'll put your name forward, and if you can help out. They're looking for an artist to do some Previs. And I was like, it was a company called Prestige. So a huge VFX, European company, like massive. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's terrifying, because it's not just like a client, like it's a big one. It's not just like a local filmmaker. This is, on my own, not working in the support of a team as such, because you got that, you have that comfort of like, we're in a team of 10 people. It's fine. But when it was just me, I was thinking it was quite scary. And I messaged them, and then they messaged back. We emailed a little bit, and they were looking to just outsource. So it was an outsource thing. So I couldn't take any credit as a company, and I won't go mention what project it was, but it was a big AAA video game cinematic at the time. And so they sent a contract. I said yes. They sent a contract over, and looking through a contract was terrifying. It was like all these words and pages and figures and like, consequences if things are not delivered. And it was just so scary. I was thinking, you know what? I have been given an opportunity here. Like, maybe it's not that much work, and I didn't know what the scope of the work at the time. Because they were looking for one person to do this thing. So I've got plenty of experience. I can do this. It's not a big deal at all. And then it turns out that like we had a call and we had a sequence and we had an animatic, and it was like a 10-minute sequence of which we would need to do 6 minutes of it in like 6 weeks. And I'm thinking that turnaround time is insane to do 6 minutes in 6 weeks with like one person. And I was thinking, okay. And I thought, you know what? I need to get a team. Avengers Assemble type. I need to assemble a squad. And prior to that, like months ago, I did a talk at a university at Birmingham, BCU, Birmingham University, talking about Previs and showing the students what Previs was and how it's used and all this sort of thing.
Yep.
And there was a guy there, like a post student, but like was teaching, doing a bit of teaching and like postgraduate, because it's a high level course. It's their course is really high end stuff. I met this guy called Adam Bootrief, and he just really stood out from everybody else. Like he was asking questions, and he seemed very interested. Not that everybody else was not interested, but he just seemed to have an extra bit of interest. And we had a chat afterwards, and he was really passionate, like showing me the work. And his language was very like technical, very like TD mindset. And then I needed to assemble a team, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna like Pawl Fulker, like he had this like right hand guy who was like always there to help out, and was I thought that's like the Robin to the Batman, or like having that right hand person is essential, like picking your squad basically. I thought I need one of those, and then Adam popped in. I thought, man, like they've done a bit of like mocap, because the project required a lot of like mocap based stuff. So Vicon mocap, they would send it over, and we had to like wrangle it and work with it and create shots in these sequences. I was like, Adam could do that. I'm sure. So I called him up and says, Adam, can you, we've got this job in, which was our first big one. We've got this job in. I've signed the contract. So I'd signed the contract, and then I had thought, okay, I've got to solve this. Because I think sometimes you say yes and then you work out how to do stuff after. I feel like I'm waffling on here, Coffee. Is this good stuff?
No. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, I'm getting there.
Yeah, it's great.
And so I called Adam up, and he was like, yeah, you know what? No problem. I'll come down and I'll, because they sent a test over. So they sent some test mocap files to see if we could like retarget it and like create some shots and like just learn about how they would work, how they were working and all that stuff. So just like a test to get before we get started. Adam came down, I'm sure it was a Saturday, and we spent 3 hours in the studio, and that was the first time like I had another artist. Another artist there.
Yeah, cute up.
Yeah, man. But actually, before Adam came on board, just to go back, I did actually take on like I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get a loan. I'm going to get an overdraft, and I'm going to bring on like a marketing person to try and like help me market. So there was somebody there, but not like a team of like previous artists, but he was a great guy, Emil Fisher. He was, came on board doing marketing, filmed some videos. He was great. He's not with us now, but so after Emil and a dedicated person to come on board for this project, Adam came on board, did the test, retargeted like the Vicon stuff, and I put some cameras in there, created some shots, and sent it off. And they were like, "Yeah, great. Project starts on this certain date." And I thought, "Okay, great, amazing. But you know what? We definitely need like 3 or 4 people on this project, because the workload, there was a lot. But we only had space for 2 artists in this little room, and I tried to like speak to Louise, who was manager at the business park, and she says health and safety says you can't have more than 2 people in this room. I was thinking, oh no, like I need 2 more people, but they can't fit in this room. The project starts soon. How is it going to happen? And crazily enough, I was, for the first 2 weeks of that project, I was covering a previous supervisor at Proof on
Right.
Little Mermaid. So it's not out yet.
Okay.
So I had to do this 2 weeks job because they booked me like 2 months before.
Yeah.
And when it's covering like a supervisor, you can't just pull out last minute and go, I can't do it. So
Yeah.
in my head, I was like, I'm not even, this biggest project that's come in, it's AAA video game cinematic, huge company, it's an outsource project. And I'm not there for the first 2 weeks. And I've not actually worked with Adam before. But I had this really good feeling about him. I thought, he'll be fine. He'll be fine for 2 weeks on his own, like wrangling the mocap and, all this stuff. My partner, Beck, she was like, you're an idiot. You are an idiot. What are you doing? Like, this is an opportunity here and you're going to mess it up. You're in London for 2 weeks. I've told her, like, don't do that and just focus on this. I was like, you know what? I can't.
Yeah,
and we had a great relationship. We still have got a great relationship with the people at Proof. And so I didn't want to let them down. And I've always helped out where I can, here and there. But I didn't. I continue with it. So I moved. No, so I did that 2 weeks project, covering the supervisor. And crazily enough, the Friday for the project, which was starting on the Monday, there was a little office next to our office because there was like 3 rooms in a bigger room, which was the same size as our room. She was moving out. She moved out on the Friday, and I was like, oh my gosh,
amazing.
How the stars have aligned here.
Yeah.
If she can be out of that office, we can like set up some desks and like 2 machine. No, we needed, Adam actually brought in like his 3rd machine and his laptop to help out. Yeah. So we put those in there. She was moving out on the Friday. She'd been in there for years as well, Kofi, but she ended up moving out on the Friday and the project was starting. I was like, oh, this could not happen any better. She moved out. 2 other people moved in, came on board, who Adam actually brought on board 2 students that he thought would make, fit the bill with like mocap and that sort of thing. So I thought Adam's going to just monitor the guys. He knows them. Like, he's worked in the team on projects before. He seems a very capable person. I'll be off for 2 weeks. And I felt weirdly calm about it, to be honest. But at the same time, my girlfriend was like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? And I would like go out on my lunch and I'd check with Adam, like, how's it going? And is it all good? He was like, yeah, man, no problem. Got it. He's such a guy with like that can-do attitude. Like, don't worry about it. If there's anything up, we're going to fix it. Don't you worry. So it was just really great to have that person come on board. And Adam's been with us ever since, an absolute blessing. So that project, we pulled it off. We did late nights. We did midnight, 1 o'clock. Me and Adam, getting it done. Because I came back after 2 weeks. I was like, okay, we speak with the clients. I was doing like client calls on my lunch hour with their team, and just got through it 6 weeks. And like they were saying, we'd over delivered. They were so over the moon with the stuff that we'd done. And I thought, man, we've pulled this project off. We've done it. It ended up getting extended for like 2 weeks, but that wasn't because of us. They wanted some last minute changes in the client, change some things. So it ended up being an 8-week project. We pulled it off. We had great feedback from the producer, the director. And then we went, and that started to snowball then. And we would work with the Platige guys on an outsource basis. And then we've got, jobs that have come in. And that was the start to it all. And if it wasn't for Adam, if it wasn't for that Chiggy, Rebecca, who put me forward for the job, I wouldn't have took the leap, signed a contract, gathered a team, got some machines. And I think that was really it kicked me to like, this is what it takes. You've got to do this. Because if it wasn't for the project, I wouldn't have like, I'm going to get somebody else in. I'm going to do this. So, that was the real start to the projects. And we've worked on all sorts of things from then. Even like a Netflix feature last year, and an Amazon TV show and a Netflix TV series. It's been incredible. Coffee.
Oh, man.
Well, I feel like I need a sip of water. I'm just going to have a little sip of water.
Yeah.
I've got the dry spell.
I'm just trying to take it in just because
Yeah, there's a lot.
it's just like an adventure.
Yeah,
Like,
it's felt it, man. It's
amazing just because, I mean, because first of all, you had to transition from, you had to, being an artist, you had to become an entrepreneur and learn how to like set up your business and then yeah, get a space and all of that, which was I guess new to you.
yeah,
Um,
terrifying.
it's incredible. Yeah,
We're actually in a space now. Like, so from then we moved
Yeah.
from, like, as we scaled up, we moved to a slightly bigger office, and then a slightly bigger one for like 5 people, and we had our own settee in there, and like we had a TV, and it was like, yes, we've got like a coffee machine. It really felt like, we had LED lighting, and it was like really cool studio space, and there was this big office at the end of the corridor that was like, it had like a window, and it had like a separate room, like a meeting room, and a bigger space, and I wanted to move into that office. I was like, out of all the offices on this floor, that's the one that I want. There was one that was like huge, and it was a bit too big, and it just wouldn't, maybe in like 10 years time when there's like lots more people. But there was this one room I was like, we ended up growing into that space, which was so crazy, like, to think, look how far we've come. And I couldn't have done it without that like risk and Adam and that attitude and like Beck, like Rebecca, she's there to support me morally when I get home, and she's like, yeah, you can do this, and she would do like emails and like try and organize me because there's so much to it. She's actually employed now with us, and she's like a dedicated admin, PR, outreach person. She puts me where I need to be, like meetings and everything. And we've moved offices, and we're in a space now, which is it's incredible. Coffee.
Yeah, it feels like it's just like your classic self, comparing when you were invested, when you had to pitch your show reel, you were holding back, and I think it's just maybe just that's how you are, I guess. But it's incredible because you always get to it.
Yeah, man.
I think people usually see the end result before you actually see it, and then
that's it.
Yeah,
I think you just got to take like just step by, not worry too much. Like, obviously have goals and have the bigger picture. And it's only the start, to be honest, Gavi. I mean, compared to what's out there, this is the very start. It's learning every day. Like, there's so many, things that are new and learning, and so I've by no means no experience of it all, but it's just taking step by step, and any hurdles that come along, how you can like overcome them, and just having a great team of people around you. And then obviously COVID happened. I think I'm moving on to another topic here, but because of COVID, we were able to, keep that like office space, but then offer people to come into the studio or work remotely. So that really like opened up doors for us, because we could just contact, if we needed a hand from people that maybe wasn't able to get to the studio, they could help out and do some like remote work. So, we were learning about the best remote software to use, and having like fast enough internet and bandwidth and all that sort of thing. And talking of that, like, we got to a point in that big office space at the science park where like our internet like was cut off. There's a big story about it all, but we were basically using too much bandwidth because we had like remote artists using a lot of it, and they couldn't actually fit us into their infrastructure of like internet. So they couldn't allow a dedicated line that was completely separate from theirs, and we couldn't choose how much bandwidth or demo speed we had. And there's more to it than that, but it got to the point where we had to sort of like every 3 days we'd have to like re-register the computer to like reset our bandwidth per machine. And then there was like 6 or 7 people working on live projects, and every 3 days it would be like they would message on the Discord and go, oh man, the computer needs like all you needed to do was like to type in your email address, redirect it, and it would reset their bandwidth. And but it got an absolute pain because if you offset it like with 7 people, like it wouldn't all happen at the same time. It would happen when it finished. So at 2 a.m, or if someone was working in a different time zone, they would have issues, and it became such a pain. And we were like, we need to do something about this. One day they cut off the internet, literally, so we couldn't access it. We had like 2 weeks. We had 4 projects running at the same time. And we were like, we need to do something. Like, we need a new office space. How are we going to, sort this issue out? Adam, again, always the problem solver. It's the TD mindset, I think. Solution based and a can-do attitude, as he's always been. He said, guys, let's move all the remote machines. So we had like 6 remote machines. Let's move it to my front room, my living room. I've got fast internet. I can upgrade it on the way. Trust me, it's going to be fine. Okay. So we're like, really? We've got to move machines out to get this project done before we find a new office space. Because at that point we were like, we need to start looking for a new place. So we literally, within the hour, we'd packed Adam's and my car up with 6 machines and like monitors and drove to Birmingham. Set it up in his living room. We had so many Ethernet leads everywhere. Like his front room looked a mess. I've got some pictures. I can send some pictures.
I'd love to put it on.
Ethernet leads and like monitors. He set up a desk and the internet, and he'd upgraded the internet on the way to Birmingham. And on the Monday it was faster internet. And me and Beck were then out looking for new office spaces. This one being the one we're in at the moment. And then crazy other thing, Kofi, about like things lining up, like the stars have aligned. 6 months prior to this, we went to view this space. Basically, there's a business park about 10 miles out the way, and it's got loads of like log cabin business village. It's amazing. Came there and we said, can we look at how much are the office spaces? They were a bit too expensive for what we needed at the time because we just weren't ready to do that 6 months ago. In that 6 month period, work went crazy and we had like 4 or 5 projects on, and like it was constant. And we thought, you know what, we'll just give them a call to see if they've got any spaces available. Called him up, the guy Adrian, and he goes, that's funny, Jamie, I've got a piece of paper here that says 6 months ago to this day I need to call you because you came to look at an office space and you said I'll give you a call in 6 months' time to see if you change your mind. And it was on that day that I called him, and then he says, come down, we've got an office space available. We came down, looked at it, and then we literally moved in on like the Monday. Oh no, the Friday, the end of the week. So the remote machines were in Adam's house for like a whole week. And then we moved in on the weekend straight away. And that's always scary because you're mid-project. You've got to you carry it on Monday. We've got remote people to look after. That's another story in itself. But we got there, and we are up and running again. So it's been an adventure.
It's not easy. I mean, you have to start somewhere. So So what are the advantages or disadvantages of running your business in the Midlands?
The advantages of being in the Midlands. Well, I think advantages now, I don't even think it matters where you are now, which is great. So obviously that was a big fear at the start of being here, how are we going to get work? But the advantages of being in the Midlands, it's allowed me to sort of find out what's going on in the region and discover more stuff, creatives, businesses, studios, productions, and it's amazing. It's incredible. I've become like there's a thing called Create Central. It's a West Midlands based sort of team of people trying to drive more to the region. and it's, I'm an executive board member on there. I'll send you a link if you want to check it out.
Sure.
But yeah, great for like
I'll put it
driving
in the
more
notes.
stuff to the West Midlands. So that's been a real great, because I've been able to meet more people and grow the network and really sort of try and fly the flag for like, look what the Midlands can do and look what what talent we have here, basically.
Yeah.
The advantage of, I guess, being in the Midlands, it feels the same now, to be honest, where we could be anywhere. I guess disadvantages. Oh, and one advantage is, I guess we can say we are the West Midlands based Previs company. It just feels, like not that you're amongst, a saturated pool of like Soho and like all these studios. But then I guess at the same time, you can be literally anywhere. So there could be studios all over the place now. So I guess that doesn't really matter too much, because the market and the other companies, they're obviously massive. So we're not competing with those by any means at all yet. But, we have worked with, outsourced from like Frame Store, and we've done bits and bobs here and there. So we're slowly but surely growing. And disadvantages, it doesn't, I guess because of the COVID, it doesn't feel like there is a disadvantage, to be honest, which is great.
Sure. What else? What tools are you guys using?
We love Blender. Do you use Blender, Kofi, at all?
I've used it once.
What did you do in there? What did you make?
It was a funny story because it's a funny story. So I was booked up. I was booked up by a studio. To do like some like Previs and postvis stuff. But they used Blender. And I'd never used it, so I had to like learn it. I mean, like, I did accept the job and promised them that I could use Blender.
Yeah, of course. You go, I can do it.
Yeah. So I did my tutorials, and then
Did you make the donut by any chance?
Did I?
Did you make the Blender donut?
No, I didn't get that far. No. But I started the job pretending that I could use it, and it didn't go well. So I think like 3 days after, they're like, I think we don't.
Oh, really?
Okay, we don't. Yeah. So they let me go.
And you've not touched Blender since?
I haven't touched Blender since, but I've seen. I love the tools that it has, and I wish some of the features that it has could be brought into Maya. But
is that what you use? Are you solely Maya based then, Kofi?
Maya, just also because, well, predominantly as matching with artists, say 80% of my daily software activities is in 3D Equalizer.
Okay.
And then Maya for layout and doing extra stuff. Gotcha. So 3D Equalizer and Maya mostly. And then Nuke for just gathering metadata and doing pre-comps and whatnot if I need to. So but
Maya, we use Maya, but we always push for Blender. It depends on the client. Like Platige, they have Maya. They use 2017, which is so buggy and nasty. But it's pipeline, so if they require Maya, we use it. And then we always try and use Blender. We've used Blender on many. We've done postvis as well, which we did a lot of postvis. So there's a Netflix feature. We did previs and postvis on that using Blender, and we did a bit of Nuke on it. But Blender just was great for it, so we love that. Adam is actually just starting to learn Houdini in his spare time. Blender and that. Blender, Maya, and now a little bit of Houdini. So I'm very excited to see what Adam comes up with because, he loves all that technical stuff, and that's definitely what Houdini is.
Do you think Maya is a bit overkill for new or small studios starting out?
I just think for a new small studio starting out, it's just unnecessary. You don't need. I don't say don't use it at all. Obviously, everybody's got whatever works best for what you want to do. And for many people, especially like just learning 3D and getting into it and doing something small. I mean, come on, like Blender, and you can download it, and I think it's about 300 megabytes. The install file, and you've got such an amazing community of people and artists and talent. There's so much love into it. If you need some advice or help, there's a forum, there's a Discord, there's the resources. I don't think you can go wrong. So I think Maya, it just feels a bit like outdated, clunk. I don't want to give it a bad name because there's plenty of people who slate off softwares, but for me and our studio, we do good with Blender, and it does everything that we need it to. And of course, Maya is there if the pipeline is needed. So But and saying that, one of our Blender artists who is remote, a guy called Ruben, such a legend. He's been on board with us for a long time now. He's Blender. He loves creating effects, and anything that you say, can this be done? He's like, yeah, cool, man. I'll find out a way. Like, he's that type of guy. And we needed him to. We're on a project at the moment that requires Maya, and so we needed some effects, like ribbony effects, and I said, Ruben, you can create it in Blender if you want, but then know that we need to control it like on splines and these things in Maya. So I don't know if it's going to transfer over. Maybe you can like cache it out and use like Alembics or whatever. But if you want to control it, it might be a bit of a pain to go back to Blender and then do that and then put it into the scene. So can you create this effect but in Maya? He's like, you know what? Yes, I'm sure I can. I've not touched Maya for like 12 years, but give me a bit and I'll work out to it. And he's done it, and he actually said to me that, he said, you know what, Maya is. He says it's beautifully broken. He says it's so powerful, so in depth, but it's got its flaws, of course, with every software. But he's actually enjoying it. But he can't wait to get back on Blender. Sure? So he starts another project with us on Monday. In Blender. So I think he's going to be very excited.
Yeah. Have you had to switch to, learn Blender? Because I can imagine prove
Yes. Yeah. So I had to learn it because it was free, and I didn't want to I couldn't afford to buy licenses and buy one to then test it. Obviously now there's indie licenses and things like that, which are great if it works for you. But I just thought, you know what, I'm going to get under the Blender. I made the donut. I took on a little project. So the company that was in that big room in that office at the end, they were doing at the time, they were called School of Coding. They still are, called School of Coding. But they had a project on. They knew that I was doing 3D. But when I say Previs, they would say in the kitchen, oh, what do you do? And I say, oh, Previs and things. And animated storyboard. So as soon as they hear the word animation, they don't understand what Previs is, but they know what animation is. And then he came knocking the door one day and he said, hey, Jamie, we've got this project with this virtual reality company, and we want to build this educated book, but do it in VR, but we need some avatar 3D characters. Can you make them in 3D and make them move? And I was like, yeah, definitely. So because of that, I just started learning Blender, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this in Blender, and I'm going to just learn about rigging and motion capture and facial blend shapes and shape keys and modeling, texturing. So that was the start of it for me. And then from there, just playing with cameras and just exploring the whole, previs pipeline in Blender, because I'm used to a Maya pipeline. So knowing what you want to do, but then think, okay, we've got to do this now in Blender. Or working at Proof, we had this tool that play blasted the viewport, and it would go to the right path, and all these tools that were the company's tools. I guess you have to build your own and create a whole new pipeline, which is completely unique to anything else.
Of course. Just quick question. Now, why should anyone decide to work in the visualization industry?
Why should anybody decide to work? You know what? I think it's just in you from early. Like,
Yeah.
it's such a tough industry. You've got to like love what you do. Like, you can't just decide to go, oh, I'd like to. Well, maybe you can. I don't know. But I think if you go, oh, I'd like to try the VFX or like animation, which many people do, and I think because of resources now, like, you can explore and like try it and see if it works for you, and if it's something that you want to do, you know, without having to go to uni or having to do this, you can just learn from yourself. I think you've got to want to do it yourself. You've got to love learning. You've got to love progression. You've got to love everything about it to last, I think, a long time in it. We had a guy that we took on, and he was interested in getting to the industry, and he came on board as for free. He was like, I'll just come and like absorb things and like learn. He was a really good like artist, and he was very much like open to like learning stuff. But I think after like a few weeks and just seeing like the grind that we do, and like, I might be wrong, but I just think he clicked in his head that like maybe that's just not for him. So I think it takes a certain type of person with an attitude to go,
definitely,
to get in there and last. You know.
Yeah. Do you think, or would you recommend people working in Previs and postvis before maybe working in VFX finals?
Well, it's definitely a good, like, I guess don't use it as a stepping stone, but see it as an opportunity to, I guess, number one, get into the industry, especially for like students and people looking to get in. If you want to do animation, for example, Previs, obviously we don't do final animation, although, you know, the ever demanding growth of projects, it's not just grayscale, like blocky stuff. It's regressed so much that you're pretty much doing, you know, high animation, but not final in some projects. So they can see it as like an opportunity, definitely. And, you know, you're not doing final, but if you get picked up and like, whoa, you're a really, really good animator, you should maybe this department, you could go and like animate a shot on there. Or if you speak to so-and-so, you know, show them your reel, and like you could get picked up by the actual animation team, especially in like post viz on jobs. I know that I've worked with people that was doing such a good job in like animating characters in the post viz side that all the team are like, oh man, like, you could probably animate. Do you reckon you could animate this shot for like maybe final actually? And then like that opportunities opened up for them. So it's definitely a great way. And filmmaking in general, like if you want to learn how to direct and like work with cameras and compositions and things like that, Previs is definitely a great sort of way to do that. But then you could even like find something completely new that you hadn't, you know, thought about, and discover new things. So yeah, definitely.
So are you still wearing two caps at the office? Because being an artist, and
that was the trick. That's like now, you know what? At the start, I was always on every job, every single project, and obviously trying to like grow the business and do all that stuff, like front end and back end all the time. And Beck would always say to me, my partner Beck, she would say, soon you're going to have to like stop doing like the front end stuff and really focus on like back end. You're going to have to take a step back. And me being like a control freak and thinking like, you know, man, when will I be able to sort of start a project and not even touch it? Like, and that has happened. And it was terrifying at first, COVID, to say like, okay, I've got to, not that I don't trust anybody, because the team around us and in our team are so great. Everybody's got great attitude. Everybody's very talented, but it's just handing over that baton of like, okay, will you supervise this project? And then I'm on this I'm on this other project, or trying to line up another other project, you know? So it happened. I guess the first 2 weeks was a bit of a test on that big project of like just taking a step back. But then as soon as I'd finished 2 weeks, I was back on it and back on front end and doing like late nights. It's happened on a project on the Netflix feature film. Like I did Previs. I was front end Previs with the other guy, Adam, of course, me and Adam on that. And then other projects were coming in, and then they wanted to do postvis. I was like, I will do postvis, but then I won't be able to focus on anything else. But then I can't not focus on anything else because nothing's going to grow if I'm all my attention's on front end.
Yeah.
Adam was like, I'll supervise the postvis job, and I'll get like we can find 2 other people to help out on it. And I was like, maybe you're right, actually. Yeah, man. Like you do that, and I don't have to worry about it. And it was amazing because I was able to, for the first time properly, to Adam does the postvis with his team, a tracker and another artist and himself. And I was on other projects, and I didn't stress one bit because he was in control. He was over delivering. He was like done what it took to get done. The client was so happy that we even had a call. He had a call from the director to say thank you for like all the hard work that you've done on this project. So that was the first like, whoa, step back, it can be done. And then now and then that happens. I'm on a project at the moment just because of circumstances, doing a couple of late nights just to get it through the door. But everybody does what they have to help out, you know. And I will be, I'm sure, taking more of a step back as it goes, but big learning curve.
What what are the best and the worst decisions that you've made in your career as an artist and a business owner?
Best decision was probably, I guess, starting to do my own thing. It was amazing decision to make, actually. It was a slow one, but eventually it was made. And yeah, I've grown so much as an artist, from being an artist to being a business owner. But that was such a terrifying decision to commit to it. And it feels like it can't go back now. Like the snowball is rolling down that hill and I can't just jump off, you know. And I wouldn't want to. And I wouldn't want it, to be honest, Kofi. But that's probably one of the best decisions I'd made. And worst decision, I've never really thought about that, actually. Worst decision, I couldn't say it. I mean, I can't really think of one, to be honest.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, I think it's great that you did the jump because I think because usually like freelancers tend to keep freelancing just because, I don't know, they're comfortable. Also, they're being paid enough to keep them doing it. So usually everyone just keeps doing it, and I don't know, by the time they realize they're 50, like you didn't want to be 50. Doing it. So
exactly. I mean, again, for everybody else, it's different. Everybody, if someone wants to be a freelancer and do that, that's absolutely fine. If that makes them happy and they love what they do, that is absolutely great. And it's not that I didn't love what I was doing. I just, I was inspired by like Pawl, definitely, and then scared of just being like stuck in there. And I could have gone up to be like supervising like bigger projects and grown in just like as an individual. Very, very likely, very possible. But I just thought I've always been a bit, that flair of entrepreneurship. We've done like little, like, what are they called, loot crate type boxes and like little businesses here and there, and like all the time in our own time. But it was just a decision, and they just worked for me, and I'm pulling it off. It feels like slowly, but very much the start.
Yeah, it's great. Just trying to get your advice as an animator and lead or supervisor. So what should be the key differences for anyone making a Previs or postvis reel and or like a VFX finals?
Okay, I would say Previs, like, because we look through a lot of like people wanting to be a Previs artist, or join the team, sorry, and so that show reels and things. One thing for me, like, it doesn't have to necessarily look great in terms of like aesthetics, like renders and like things like that. Some of the best work that I've ever seen, and is grayscale, great camera work, great storytelling, just knowledge of cinematography, can be done with nothing fancy. There doesn't need to be, high end like depth of field, like textures. It doesn't need to be that. If you strip it down to its core, Previs is there, or in the traditional sense. Previs is there to help, aid the director and creatively explore ideas, and that can all be done with grayscale, nothing fancy, great cameras, storytelling. So strip it down to its core and just demonstrate to me that what's involved. Don't waste your time. You don't need to necessarily need to fully animate stuff. Just block it, get good timings and compositions, and show me what you can do. And then post viz stuff, I guess that's a bit more straightforward because you get footage and you put on effects. You don't necessarily need to create the effect, but if a halfway point of composition, compositing, and then it's easier to pick to bring on board like post viz artists. But I guess the language of becoming like a previs artist, being able to, you're not waiting for a modeler to create something necessarily. Like you have to be quite general in terms of like, modeling and a bit of lighting. You have to do a bit of everything. But if you want to be a shot creator, camera knowledge, timing, composition is vital. So you got to work fast. Iterations happen all the time. Don't be too, don't take it personally when someone's saying you got to change this, you got to change that, you got to change that, because that's the whole point of previs. You've got to be prepared to do 100 versions of something, before the director, the client's happy with it. So,
okay, yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question. I forgot what your question was, to be honest, Gofair. I think I've just
like pretty much showreel advice, I guess.
Showreel advice.
Thank you. Yeah. Are you guys dabbling with Unreal and VR stuff? I mean,
yes, we are slowly. We start a project on Monday, which we are going to go down the Unreal route for it. And yeah, I mean, like I said earlier at the start, like the whole previs, post-viz, blurred lines, like doing more in pre than post now, it's completely changed because of things like LED walls and game engines. And, I do say that, previs, can just look very low end, like quality, but have a good, solid, camera composition, all that stuff. But now, because of game engines, directors and projects, they've got these amazing tools and they can sit and see something so early on that they want to be more involved with like the creative side, and they can see so much earlier than what they're used to seeing things. So Unreal Engine is definitely something that we're bringing into our pipeline. I've worked with so many people that have done like the Unreal Fellowship course, and the power of it. It opens up a lot of doors. But the one thing, what you can think of with Unreal Engine is, if we was to show a director something or a team, like in the traditional previous sense, and maybe we, I don't know, coloured a prop like red, for example, just to be a standing prop, and it's just to say, this isn't the actual prop, and it's not this actual color, but it's there to tell a story, for example. You would sit with, or they would sit and show like art department, for example, and other departments, and someone would go, hold on a minute, that design in the previous, like that's not what we've got here. And they're like, no, okay, like it's not it's not exactly what it's going to look like, but it's just, and they go, oh, okay, yeah, that's the floor there. We've got a different texture to what we're going to use. So sometimes in the past, it's been difficult to explain, like, this is what Previs is for. Don't you worry too much about it. It's not going to what it's going to look like, but it's, but now with the power of like what you can do so early on, it's just changing the way people work, and, virtual production, LED walls. I think soon it won't be called virtual production and LED. It'll just be production. Like that's just the way things are going to be done. So it's ever changing and growing, and there's a lot of crossover now.
Yeah, there's definitely
exciting, very exciting. Like it's sometimes difficult. Like sometimes, same Blender, for example, you've got like really cool like depth of field, and you can turn on like reflections, and it's so tempting to just want to just turn it all on and just make it look great. But you've got to strip all that away first, and then get the foundations right first.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Jamie. I wish I could talk to you much longer, but I think maybe
I've talked too much.
We can have you on in the future just to see what,
of course,
you've been up to, and
anytime, Kofi. Anytime. Thanks for having me. It's flown by. Great. I've only had one little sip of water, but I waffle.
It's been great. Yeah, it's great because it's amazing that the support that you have around you, and your girlfriend just keeps on.
She's been one to just keep me going, and the team. The team are incredible.
Adam sounds
great. Shout out to the Bigtooth team and everybody that's helped and got us to where we are today. And we keep going.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, sounds great.
Thanks,
Thank
Kofi.
you, man.